When I first pulled into the driveway of my new home, in a quiet little corner of a town called Willow Creek, I remember thinking to myself, finally, peace. After years of renting cramped apartments, trying to make the best of whatever I could afford, this was it. My dream home. The place I could finally call my own. And not just the house, but the entire feeling that came with it, the sense of accomplishment, of stability, of a reviewing somewhere that was truly mine. The sleek, modern design, the shaded backyard, the wide-open patio. But the real gem? A crystal-clear in-ground pool that glistened under the sun like a private oasis. I remember standing there, letting it all sink in. I had reviewed every inch of this property before I signed on the dotted line. Zoning records? Check. Property boundaries? Double check. The HOA, Willow Creek Community Association, was responsible for most of the neighborhood but not my parcel. I made sure of that before buying. This little plot of land? A unicorn. Legally exempt from HOA jurisdiction. That was the deal breaker. My realtor had confirmed it, and later, my attorney friend Jeff had backed me up. I was free. The first week was pure bliss. I unpacked, landscaped, and even put up some sun sails over the pool for extra shade. The neighbors? They were friendly enough, the kind you wave at when you get your mail, but don't really get too close with. That was until I met one of them, Carol Wallace, who lived 2 houses down. A retired nurse with a sharp wit. She stopped by one morning with homemade cookies and, as she put it, a warning about the HOA president, Linda Saunders. Linda? I asked, curious. President of everything, Carol said with a wry grin. She walks like she owns the whole place. If your lawn grows half an inch over the line, you'll get a complaint before breakfast. She's a piece of work. I laughed, thinking, good thing I'm not part of the HOA. Carol's face changed for a moment, a flicker of something I couldn't place. She set down the plate of cookies, her voice turning serious. Well, honey, the last guy thought that too. 2 days later, he had a bulldozer in his backyard. It was a casual joke, but it stuck with me. A couple of days later, I got my first letter. Delivered by hand. No mailman involved. Just this fancy gold seal with the HOA's logo. I opened it, and there it was, a demand to remove my pool. Apparently, it violated some newly said community development plan. They wanted it gone, and they were giving me 72 hours to comply or face penalties. I sat there, staring at the letter, reading it again and again, trying to make sense of it. A communal access zone? My pool. I didn't even know what the hell they were talking about. But I wasn't about to give in. I had everything on my side: zoning records, the title history, everything. I immediately reached out to Jeff. He confirmed everything was solid. I wasn't going anywhere. The next day, another letter came, this time, signed by Linda Saunders herself. She claimed there had been a zoning review and that I didn't attend the public hearing, so the reclassification stood. Demolition required. Deadline remains. She thought I'd just roll over? That I'd tear down my pool because some HOA president decided to redraw the lines? Not a chance. I responded again, attaching every document proving my property was legally exempt from the HOA. I thought that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. The next morning, I found a crumpled piece of paper under my windshield wiper. No letterhead. No signature. Just 6 words. You're not bigger than the rules. I knew then it wasn't just a misunderstanding. This wasn't going to be resolved with paperwork. This was war. And Karen was playing dirty. That week, things got weird. Every morning, a white SUV would park across the street, with some guy in a VY8 sunglasses pretending to scroll through his phone. He didn't even look up when I waved. But it wasn't just him. A drone started flying over my backyard too. Not one of those cheap toy drones. This was a commercial-grade model. A big one with a camera rig. It hovered over me as I worked in the yard, then zipped off when I raised my phone to snap a picture. That's when another HOA notice showed up, this time accusing me of unauthorized construction and suspicious landscaping activity. Suspicious landscaping? I was planting agave. I showed the footage to Jeff, who didn't laugh. Alex, that's surveillance. If you didn't authorize it, that's a privacy violation. The harassment ramped up quickly. It wasn't just about the pool anymore. They were trying to break me. That night, I found a GPS tracker stuck to the undercarriage of my car. It was magnetic, high quality, the kind used by professionals. And then, a few days later, Karen invited me to an HOA community harmony meeting. I declined, of course. The next morning, I found an email chain slipped under my door. It was full of gossip from a neighborhood forum I didn't even know existed. There were pictures of me, one from the grocery store parking lot, another of me taking my dog out for a walk. Janet came by, rattled. "Alex, you're all over next door. Karen's telling everyone you're ex-military with PTSD and that you're dangerous. One woman even said you threatened to poison her dog." "What the hell?" I blinked, confused. "I gave that dog peanut butter biscuits last week." "It's all lies," she said, shaking her head. "But she's turning everyone against you." I couldn't believe it. Neighbors who had once smiled and waved now avoided me. They crossed the street to avoid walking past me. I was being slowly isolated, and Karen was winning. Then came the citation from the city, unauthorized structures, and altered drainage lines. I pulled out my permits. The officer just shrugged, said everything seemed fine, but noted that Karen had filed multiple complaints that month. It wasn't about following the rules anymore. It was about destroying me. The harassment culminated in a late-night note slipped under my door. "Let's settle this face-to-face," it said, with no signature, just a location, the Sandhill Springs Clubhouse backlit at 8 p.m. I didn't laugh. I was done playing games. I called Jeff to let him know I was going. He was on standby, ready to support me. I drove over there, heart pounding. The parking lot was half-lit, shadows stretched long across the pavement. And there she was, Karen, standing by a luxury sedan, arms crossed, a smug smile on her face. Flanking her were two guys who looked like they just stepped out of an action movie. One had arms like tree trunks, and the other wore sunglasses at night. "You've made quite the mess, Mr. Greenberg," Karen said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You've stalked me, trespassed on my property, and now you're luring me here in the dark. You sure this is the image you want for your HOA newsletter?" One of her goons stepped forward, trying to block the light. "We're trying to keep this friendly," he said, his voice slow and deliberate. "Friendly," I repeated. "Is that what you call GPS trackers and fake citations?" Karen smiled. "Let's not be dramatic. You've been a disruption. We simply want you to take down the pool, and we forget all this nonsense." I scoffed. "You mean the legally documented pool on my legally exempt property?" And that's when it all went down. One of her guys lunged at me, trying to shove me. Reflexes kicked in. My elbow came up, hitting him in the ribs. He stumbled back. The other guy tried to grab me, but I ducked, slamming into him with my shoulder. He crashed into the car, setting off the alarm. And Karen screamed, but not in fear and frustration. That's when I saw it, a small dome camera mounted above the lot. "You just assaulted 2 community safety officers," Karen yelled. "Everything was recorded. I hope you're ready for the consequences." The cops were already waiting when I got home. They had the footage, and I was accused of assault. But I knew I'd been set up. This wasn't about the pool anymore. This was personal. In court, it was time to expose Karen for what she was. Jeff tore apart her lies with drone footage, forged signatures, and payments to contractors, all pointing straight to Karen. And then came the final blow, a photo of Karen, 2 days after the demolition, toasting with the CEO of the concrete company she'd been working with. The jury took 4 hours. And when they came back, Karen was found guilty on all counts. 21 years in prison. No parole. The HOA was dissolved. The contractor fined Dulaw $1.7 million, and I was awarded Dulaw $2.3 million in damages. But the real Tory wasn't the money. It was watching Karen walk out of that courtroom, finally facing the consequences for everything she had done. 3 months later, I stood at the edge of my new pool, bigger, deeper, and absolutely mine. The HOA was gone, and peace had finally returned. The first guests arrived. Janet, the neighbors, even Mr. Hooper, who used to yell at me for power washing too enthusiastically, all came over to celebrate. We were free. And that night, as the desert breeze cooled the air, I knew that this was the beginning of something better. Karen had underestimated me, and I had won. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts on standing up against unfair power, and subscribe for more real-life tales of triumph over adversity.